This telecast is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Winchester, a nonpartisan organization for 85 years encouraging the informed and active participation of citizens in government.
Welcome. The Winchester League of Women Voters welcomes you to this forum to hear from candidates running for senator from the 2nd Middlesex District. This is the seat formerly held by the late Charlie Shannon of Winchester. My name is Ann Bailey Berman. I'm a League member and I will moderate the forum tonight. The campaign process itself provides voters the opportunity to listen to reasoned debate of issues, to prioritize the issues, and then to act upon your convictions by voting. Although this race is being conducted during the summer, a time possibly better spent for enjoying the weather than focusing on issues, the issues facing our soon-to-be senator are serious and as diverse as the district itself. Thus, we must take time to focus on the issues, the candidates, and their positions. And here we are. The League of Women Voters sponsors this forum so that you, the voter, can directly hear from candidates as they discuss the issues and make their cases to you as to why you should vote for them. With that, a special welcome to each of our candidates, and also congratulations to each of you for running. I'm sure it takes a lot of courage to run for positions such as this. To the far left is Michael Callahan. Michael is from Medford and presently serves on the Governor's Council. Next to him is Joseph Mackey, former state representative from Somerville. And then moving over to Paul Casey of Winchester, who is currently the state representative in Winchester. And then next to him is William White of Somerville, who is presently an alderman at large in Somerville. And then in the empty seat that you see next to Mr. White, we hope that Patricia Jellin from Somerville, who is presently state representative from that area and former school committee member, will attend. She should be here in about 30 minutes. The ground rules of the forum are simple. Each of you will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement. We will then move to questions that have been culled from suggestions by over 100 league members from this district, and you will be given 2 minutes to address each question. At the end, you will have 2 minutes for closing remarks. As a reminder, there's not one but 2 league members who are serving as timekeepers to help you keep on. So Mr. Callahan, if we can start, please, would you start with the opening?
Thank you, Ian, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters of Winchester for having this forum tonight. I've been your Governor's Counselor, elected by you for the past 7 years. I've enjoyed that job very much, and I'd like to thank you for electing me to serve as your Governor's Counsel. It's been an important job. During my tenure, I have had the nominations of 5 state Supreme Court members, including the Chief Justice, to act upon. I've had 367 judges out of our 404 judges in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that I had to vote upon. It's been a very important time for me, and I think that I've done a very good job, and I appreciate your voting for me and sending me there. As I go door to door throughout the district, I hear about the disgraceful conditions of our roadways and our parks. I hear about the increasing drug, crime, and suicide problems plaguing our communities. And I hear about the layoffs of teachers. I hear about the undersized classrooms, part-time libraries. I hear what the people are saying, that they want more funds to come back to the communities. And if you elect me to the Massachusetts Senate, I will restore the funds for our school teachers to have enough teachers in the system so that we can have smaller classrooms and better education. I'll restore the police officers to our streets of the city, and I'll restore our firefighters to the firehouses so that there'll be someone there to answer the call in case of emergencies. Thank you very much.
Now, Mr. Mackey.
Thank you, Ann, and I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. It is indeed a privilege to be running for a seat held by Charlie Shannon, someone who was beloved not only in the town of Winchester but throughout this district. I'm running for this office because I believe I possess the qualities necessary to be an heir to his tradition, his hard work that he's done in the state Senate. I have a history of effectiveness. I have a perspective on the job, and I have a passion on the issues, which I believe separates me from the other candidates in this office. As a state representative for 3 terms, I was a very effective legislator. I pushed through legislation ranging from the gay rights bill, which I handled the floor fight on the gay rights bill. It had been defeated 7 years in a row. We were successful in getting that through, the second such bill in the United States to be passed, and one I believe that still today is the best of any bill in the United States. I worked on other bills such as the drug asset forfeiture law, the esthetage bill, the victims witness programs, all of which now benefit the people of this Commonwealth. I have a perspective on that job, because, the job of a legislator, because I have been away from Beacon Hill for a while. I know that that is not the real world. I know that it's important to bring new ideas and to re-energize the Democratic Party in what we must do to fight Mitt Romney, fight the special interest groups, and fight business as usual on Beacon Hill. We need early education programs. We need programs for the elderly to assist them to remain in their communities through assisted living and independent living. We need to do all that and more, and I hope to do that as your next state senator. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Casey.
I'd like to thank, Madam Moderator, I'd like to thank you and the people of Winchester and all the tens of thousands of people out there tuning in this very evening. I'm Paul Casey. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a lifelong resident of Winchester and certainly the state, and one of 9 kids born to Anne Marie and Bill, who are presently in a sane asylum. My wife, Sonia, and I have 3 kids of our own, 6, 4, and 1. And you might ask, well, why me? Why Representative Casey? And first and foremost, the residents of this district, the Somerville, Medford, Woburn, Winchester, they need somebody with experience, forged in difficult times. They need passion for those most in need. They need intelligence to be open to all suggestions, all people, and they need the energy and toughness of someone to carry out what has to be done here and throughout Massachusetts. Right from the very get-go, I was a victim of the foolish policies of the 80s, because right from the start they were going to close something called the Stone Zoo. I saved that. We pulled the Stone Zoo and the Franklin Park Zoo from the brink of extinction. As chairman of public safety, I authored the state's most powerful and most comprehensive gun control legislation, which served as a template on the national scale. I provided legislation relief to self-contained breathing apparatus. We also have provided other forms for firefighters in the terms of heat-seeking devices to protect those firefighters and those people in the public safety field that we deem the most important. As chairman, I authored landmark junior operators law in public safety. As chair of public service, I crafted the Retirement Plus for teachers. In so many ways, I have tirelessly worked with other people, with opponents, even with Treasurer O'Brien, to balance our unfunded pension liability that still threatens our retirement system today. My time is up right now, but I urge you to stick with this, to listen to all the candidates here, and notice that there are huge differences between one and all. And more importantly, to stay in here and let me expound upon the other achievements that I have not just authored, not just helped debate, but more importantly, that I actually sponsored and pushed through the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. White?
Thank you very much. I appreciate all you folks who are watching this evening and the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this. My name is Bill White, and I'm currently an Alderman at Large in the city of Somerville. I'm the Republican candidate in this race, and I'm running because I believe my background and experience qualifies me in a rather unique way to represent this district, which is perhaps one of the most diverse districts in the entire Commonwealth. I was born and raised in Somerville. I actually grew up in a brick tenement almost next door to one of the last operating slaughterhouses in the city. But because of the work of my parents, people in the community, the school system that I attended, I was able to go to Harvard College and Georgetown Law School on scholarships, where I graduated with honors. After that, I went on to clerk for federal judge, and then basically have practiced law for about 25 years. 8 years ago, I ran as an alderman at large in the city of Somerville because I believe I owed something to the community. I believed I was obligated to give something back because of the start that I received. And I'm now finishing my 8th year. And during those 8 years, I think I've established a reputation as a very independent innovator in the items that I've sponsored. Somerville was the first city to have a 30% residential tax exemption for homeowners. It saved thousands of dollars to Somerville's homeowners in their property taxes. Many people read about Assembly Square. Prior to my election, Assembly Square was slated to be strip mall haven. I sponsored the legislation that led to a comprehensive plan calling for a T-stop and mixed-use development, which is now in progress. Lastly, by serving for 8 years on the Board of Aldermen, I've shown that I do my constituent work. People in Winchester can feel comfortable that if I'm elected, even though I'm in Somerville, I will be here to respond to your constituent concerns, and also as an elected official, as someone who chaired the Finance Committee for 3 years during the drastic budget cuts foisted upon us by the state legislature, I know the hard decisions that have to be made. And again, I pledge to work with you and with your Board of Selectmen and town government if elected. Thank you.
Now to the questions. The first, we'll start with health care. The cost of health care continues to skyrocket, and Massachusetts leads the nation in per person spending for health care. What approach do you support to solve the health care crisis in our state, and how would you fund it? Mr. Mackey, why don't we start with you?
Thank you, Ann. There are two pending pieces of legislation of which I am a strong supporter. One is the Health Access and Affordability Act. The other one is the Health Care Trust Bill. I think that we have numerous steps that we can take in Massachusetts as interim steps toward what I hope someday will be a universal health care system here in Massachusetts. As a legislator, we were very close to passing a universal health care bill when I was there. We did not accomplish that. For the last 15 years, there have been few, if any, strides made in that direction. Hopefully we can begin with those two pieces of legislation. On the specific issue of cost that we have to deal with in Massachusetts, we need innovative thinking, which I think is lacking right now on Beacon Hill. We need to do things like they've done in New York regarding independent and community affordable health care that will take people out of nursing homes, will provide them with the support that is necessary to allow them to remain in their homes. And for those that aren't able to remain in their homes, we need to have places like the Visiting Nurses Association facility in Somerville, which has taken, over the last 5 years, taking 200 people out of nursing homes and provided them with a home in the community. That facility alone has saved millions of dollars to the Commonwealth, for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Presently, the budget runs approximately $23 billion. Healthcare accounts for approximately $7 billion of the budget for the state of Massachusetts. We need to do things in line with the community affordable health care programs to allow people to continue their quality of life, and also to, in some way, control the costs in the Commonwealth. Thank you, Ann.
Thanks. Mr. Casey?
It's funny that when we mentioned independent thinking, and I'm just thinking of that, how I was victimized back in the 80s when I first came in, because the only thoughts on Beacon Hill, and certainly by the leadership at that time, was we have to raise taxes, we have to spend more. Now, we've changed that dynamic dramatically in the 90s, and the second part of this question, how do you fund it, is certainly the most intriguing and most telling of all the candidates. And by the way, Bill, I'd like to know that that 30% residential tax that you mentioned was sponsored by me in the legislature. So in many ways, that campaign touting was certainly started by the legislature that you demonized a little bit in your speech, opening speech. But for lots of reasons, healthcare system is broken. We know it. We sense it. And everybody wants universal health. Who doesn't out there want a universal health, want everybody to have health care? But how do you fund it? And we can say we want prescription advantage. We can say we want more people coverage. We can say that the money's out there and we can work within the budget. But the bottom line is, how do you do this? And this is where innovation takes hold. You have to think of new ideas. What about internet taxation, ladies and gentlemen? I'm one of the only sponsors of that up in Beacon Hill. And the reason why it's anathema to most people is say, oh, it's more taxation. But what you're doing by at least inserting in a 5% sales tax on items bought on the internet is you're bringing money back to Massachusetts that's escaping. And that is part of the law in and of itself. When we talk about internet taxation, we're talking about innovation. We're talking about bringing more money back. We have to also contain our spending habits. It's too easy to be sponsoring every single program. So when we talk about keeping people in their homes, that's one of the best. Choice for nursing homes, allowing a person to stay in their home instead of go nursing home, that saves money, folks. And those are the systems that we have to keep implementing up on the state. Prevention programs like tobacco control, teen pregnancy, child obesity, and awareness on AIDS. Those are the programs we should be promoting. Why? Because we can't afford the cost of when a person gets victimized later by those very diseases. So we have to think outside the box, and that's what we've been showing for the last 5 years, at least under my chairmanship.
Thank you. Mr. White.
Thank you. I didn't realize a 30% residential exemption fit within this, but just briefly, it was a home rule petition. Somerville was the first city to propose it. I was the author of it, and I'm glad the state representative assisted the city. I'm sure there are other state representatives who would also take credit for helping the community. With regard to the question that was actually put before us, as I look at the health care issue, there were three concepts floated. You have the governor's concept, you have Senator Travellini's concept, and then you have the notion of a single payer. And what would seem to me to be an effective way to look at that would be to take the best notions from each of those. I like Senator Travellini's notion with providing economic incentives for those employers who provide health insurance. I like the governor's approach in that the goal is to try to bring as many people into some sort of an insurance pool as possible. I don't know if I would go to the same limit as his proposal seems to be that might actually find people. What I would think would be an effective way to do it might be to utilize the state income tax forms, have people indicate whether they have insurance or not, then based on their income, if they don't have insurance, you could put them in a pool. We could then look at the numbers, the Medicaid funds that we expend to date to pay for the health care for that segment of the population, and then perhaps through the use of a request for proposals or an analysis, determine whether there could be a single payer mechanism similar to an HMO to put these people in that pool to help by utilizing the concepts of an HMO where they would have a primary care physician. Instead of going to emergency rooms for treatment, they would get regular care. We could end up saving funds. So that's basically my approach in a nutshell. Thank you.
And Mr. Callahan.
Thank you, Ann. Everyone knows that the healthcare costs continue to skyrocket, and there are many different approaches to it. I have been, in the past 25 years, the Consumer Commissioner in the city of Medford, which encompasses a 6-city surrounding area, including Winchester. We've had many, many individuals with healthcare problems who've come to us, and we've been able to aid them. One person with the cancer who was dying, who owed a hospital in the area $25,000, we were able to aid by informing her about the Hill-Burton Act, which requires hospitals to give free aid to persons who are in dire financial need and don't have the money. The worst thing possible for any parent is to have a child with a health care problem that they're not able to take care of. The Center for Biomedical Innovation, which is a brand new partnership which has come about with Harvard University, MIT, our own Tufts University, which is right in the 2nd Middlesex District, and many other major hospitals, Mass General, the New England Medical Center, are now joining together with the government, and they're seeking funds from the government and using funds collectively supported by the industry, the hospitals and teaching institutions and the universities, and they're trying to come up with the answer in this first time that academia, industry, and government has sat at the same table to address this issue. They've come together to see what our population needs in the healthcare delivery system. They're going to see what our elderly population is going to need in the next several decades. They're going to join together and bring answers for the first time, economic answers to solve these problems, how we can reduce the cost of healthcare. In this area, we pay 16% higher medical costs because we have the teaching hospitals in our area. That's a cost that's well borne because we do have the best medical care on earth. But we must look at it, we must cut out the waste and unnecessary spending, we must identify the inefficiency, and through that way we can save millions and millions of dollars. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. And with that, we'll take a short break.
Hi, WinCam. My civic organization is having an event tomorrow. Can you send a staff member over to tape it?
Well, my Rotary Club is holding a special program this week, and we'd really love it if you could come down and cover it.
Here at WinCam, we get phone calls such as these every day. Unfortunately, our staff cannot cover every event. I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you or your organization how you can create your own public service announcement, cover your own event, or produce your own television show. All you need to do is have someone from your organization attend a producer's class where they'll learn everything necessary to create and produce a professional TV show. And that's what community television is all about. For more information on how to become a WinCam producer, call me, Don Cronin, at 781-721-2050, or email me at dcronin@wincam.org.
The Winchester League of Women Voters is a nonprofit organization that promotes informed participation in all levels of government. We hold forums with political candidates and on issues like flood control. We register eligible voters at the high school, honor town employees at an annual lunch. Our members are women and men 18 years and up. Our activities are designed to fit busy lives.
Access is empowerment.
Access is technology.
Access is involvement.
Access is expression.
Access is community.
Access is fun.
Access is knowledge. Access is democracy.
Access is free speech. Please be part of the Access experience. Contact your local Access Center for more information.
When you see a chessboard, does it fascinate you? Would you like to play some more chess? Have you played at school, at home, online, with some friends? If you have, and you'd like to play some more chess, we have a chess club in Winchester. It meets at the Church of the Epiphany on Church Street. We play on Friday evenings. You can call us at the number shown on the screen, or check out the webpage. Anyway, it's your move.
Welcome back. This is the forum for the candidates running for senator from the 2nd Middlesex District. Joining us is Patricia Jelling. We've already introduced you, and we were keeping your seat warm. And with that, we'll start with our next question, and we'll turn to the economy. Regional flagship businesses such as Filene's, Bank of Boston, Gillette, and just recently Reebok are disappearing from the Massachusetts landscape due to out-of-state takeovers. As you consider an economic stimulus package, what features should it have in order to retain existing enterprises in the state and encourage new business investment in our state? Which would you prioritize, Mr. Casey?
I warned each and every member out there in the audience that I was going to talk about my 4 years as chairman of taxation, and here it goes. I'm the proud author, just 3 years ago, of the economic stimulus package back then. It was a $100 million injection, and we did some fascinating things, like one, make the ITC, investment tax credit, permanent. We offered sales tax holidays, yes, at a minor cost to the state, but at the same time, it generated close to $400 million of sales with businesses. That wasn't just an economic blip here in Massachusetts, but actually, you could almost say stole business from surrounding states who have basically no tax-free holidays all the time. We also developed something called senior tax circuit breakers, and we've had Homestead, and we've had seminars on senior circuit breaker like Homestead Acts around my district, and people are very familiar with that. And we were able to bump that up to about $820. TIFs, tax incremental financing, we pushed that too. Now we're on the brink of actually creating an economic development package 2, and $200 million we're planning to actually put up for mass opportunity relocation experimentation of jobs. By doing this, we're going to be able to hopefully attract other people and retain jobs here in Massachusetts. We're injecting a $1.5 million sales force in the Mass Office of Business Development to promote and expand jobs here in Massachusetts. It's one thing to have partnerships. It's another thing to actually grow them. And one thing that I'm really excited about is having a partnership with municipalities where businesses and municipalities can come together for a $200 million grant and fund remediation, preparation, assembly together as long as they put up at least 100 jobs. This is I'm not being clairvoyant, but this is something that's right imminent. It's about to pass. And it's something that's necessary. This is exciting news, and it's something that I've been involved in practically for the last 5 or 6 years. We're excited, and we think that once we train these people and we have retraining programs, we're going to be on the brink of another economic recovery here in Massachusetts.
Thank you. Mr. Watt.
Thank you. As chair of the Finance Committee of the Board of Aldermen in Somerville, one of the things I've learned is that local assistance from the Commonwealth can sometimes be likened to the heroin that an addict needs, because when it's radically cut off, the addict goes through withdrawal symptoms. And during the last 3 years, with our cutoffs in local assistance, the city of Somerville suffered tremendously. Now that the budget is getting better, the tax revenue is increasing, local assistance will be increased. But in the long-term view, the question should be, for those cities and towns in Massachusetts that require substantial local assistance, which every year acts as, I don't want to use the term a drain, but acts as a source that takes funds away from the state budget that could be used elsewhere, is there a better approach that could be taken? In my view would be is to examine each of those communities, and some of them would be one, and to develop an economic enterprise zone or a term similar to that for those areas. We would designate them, and then on a partnership basis, but it wouldn't just be with grant money or with short-term money, but it would be through the use of long-term bonds in these redevelopment zones, either backed by perhaps backed by the Commonwealth, or the Commonwealth could issue funds that would go to communities. And the view would be that the communities would utilize those funds and perhaps provide their own tax incremental financing on the property tax end, depending on the amount of jobs and the criteria would be examining the amount of jobs that would be created and the revenue that would be generated. And instead of paying local assistance, you could use those funds instead to fund the bond investment in those communities. The one thing I would require, though, would be any industry that took advantage of those funds, tax incentives, if there was a takeover, and those businesses will close as a result of the takeover and people lost their jobs, that there be a mechanism to repay those funds that that business that was taken over used, return those funds to the Commonwealth, because I don't think it would be fair to have that tax benefit essentially go to then reward an out-of-state takeover.
Ms. Jelen, how would you handle the economic stimulus package?
Well, I think there are three main things that business needs. Whenever we have hearings around the state about what business needs from the Commonwealth, there are three things that are barriers to economic development. The first is the lack of enough trained, educated people to work. The second is the lack of affordable health care. And the third is the lack of affordable housing. And because of those, we have actually lost population in the last few years. Those are all issues that I've worked on, and particularly on the education funding. It's something that I've worked on since I was on the Somerville School Committee before I got elected to the legislature. It is outrageous that Massachusetts has cut education more than any other state in the country, and yet we have no other natural resource besides our people's minds. We need to restore education funding, both K-12 and in higher education. I'm very happy that the new proposed stimulus package does include money, both to eliminate the wait list for adult basic education and to do workforce development. So I think that's very important. But economic stimulus is not just one package. It includes education, higher education, and it includes the housing bond bill that we did 2 weeks ago, which will preserve and increase the amount of affordable housing, which will enable businesses to bring workers here and keep them here. And the last is healthcare reform, which I missed the opportunity to talk about that last, but I certainly believe that universal healthcare could shift the burden from responsible businesses, spread it more fairly, and also keep the cost down by getting people to get preventive care and keeping them from using the emergency room. All of those can be done well and comprehensively, or they can be done short-term and not well. And I think they're all going to happen in the next, in the end of this session. And I would like to be there because I have experience in all of them, and I think I could be helpful.
Mr. Callahan.
Thank you, Ann. I think this perhaps is one of the most important issues that we touch upon here tonight. The economic development of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and in the 2nd Middlesex District. There are some great things going on in the 2nd Middlesex District with some development in Medford and in Somerville for transit-based multi-use developments. Jobs are coming to those areas, hundreds and hundreds of jobs. Right now they're spending $500 million just in the city of Medford building the first of such developments. But our problem in Massachusetts is we moved from manufacturing industry. We have to find something different, and there's something on the horizon which looks as if it's going to be the answer. We have to get into the field of life sciences. One life science job creates 5.7 support jobs. That's according to the federal statistics. These also create a field of education, which is kind of opening up. It's a brand new field. We use this as a catalyst and a foundation to rebuild our economy. We educate that workforce. We build affordable housing systems around these areas so that the high cost of living doesn't scare the workers who will come to Massachusetts from many of the fine universities throughout the United States. And many of the people who come to be educated here throughout the years, they've stayed in Massachusetts and help our economy to grow once they've got the knowledge and once they have the background to fill these positions. I think that's the best way to solve the problems of our state's economy. Thank you.
Mr. Mackey?
Thank you, Ann. Perhaps as the only individual here that's spent some significant time in the private sector recently, I look at things a little differently. I think we have to look at the ideas that provide us with other advantages. For instance, one very good program out of the $23 billion budget that we have here in Massachusetts that hasn't been mentioned tonight is the $30 million that we use for the Brownfields Fund. We have to reinvest in that program. That program provides not only jobs in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, it provides opportunities for small businesses, it provides opportunities for affordable housing, it provides a cleaner environment. We need to look to the ideas that work. We need to look to the strengths of this state. An economics professor I had in college only half-jokingly suggested that the best way to predict the local economy in relation to the rest of the country was to take the graduating class at MIT from 5 years before, determine whether or not the percentage of them that stayed in the area was up or down, and that's where this economy would be in relation to the rest of the country. I think there's a little bit of truth to that. But we have to take those people with those ideas, create an incubator system that we have attempted to in the past and we've had some success with in the past, but take that program and tie it to our state college system. Encourage the incubation of those businesses around our state college, at least in geographic proximity to those colleges. In that way, we can help two parts of Massachusetts. One, the economy, and also the state college system. We have to some way find how we can wed the great private educational institutions we have to what should be a great state college program. We can do that with just a little bit of innovative thinking, with just paying attention to ideas that can work and have some practical application in this state. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let's turn to education. Several of you have mentioned it. Education funding dominates the dollars many communities receive from the state. What factors do you believe are most important in determining the state's allocation by community, and what priorities would you place on a fair funding formula? Start with you, Mr. White.
Thank you. In looking at the cuts in Chapter 70, it appears that this senatorial district was among the hardest hit in the Commonwealth. And there's now a move afoot to change the factors and the weighting of the factors as far as the Chapter 70 funding goes. The factors that are looked at are the equalized property valuation, also the income per capita in the community. And they're examining growth factors and how close the community is to the Proposition 2.5 cap, among other factors. One of the things that is not examined, and one of the things where I think Winchester and Somerville are alike, is they don't look at the factor of how much commercial development is there in a community. Somerville, as far as municipalities goes, has one of the smallest commercial developments, percentages of contribution to the levy. It's basically on the back of the residential homeowners. Similarly, in Winchester, I believe approximately 95% of your tax levy is from homeowners. A factor that should be looked at is the commercial development in a community, I believe, and what percentage of the tax levy is based on commercial tax payments. Because even though you may have a community with a large residential value and the value is going up, if you don't have the commercial development, it is still the homeowners who are paying that. And in communities like Somerville, where you have many people who've owned their homes for a number of years and property values have gone up, that doesn't mean these taxpayers are able to foot the bill. So I would, one, ask that a new factor be looked at, and that is the commercial development, so as there's a gauge as far as how much the residential homeowners are bearing for the residential property tax, and then whatever happens, that there is a hold harmless provision so that there are no reductions to any communities as far as Chapter 78 goes.
Ms. Jones.
Thank you. I've known a lot about, and I've worked very hard on education funding since I was a member of the school committee and helped form the Council for Fair School Finance, which brought the successful suit, which in 1993 led to the Education Reform Act, which has doubled the state's commitment to local aid in Chapter 70. In particular, Winchester now receives 3 times as much, even after the cuts, in Chapter 70 as it did in 1993. So I think that's important. I liked the way that the foundation formula was devised, that they took the factors, they took the population, and they adjusted for the kinds of students that were there, that you got an increase if you had low-income students, if you had English language learners, or if you had vocational education students. Then that was balanced against the property taxes that you could raise at the same rate across the state, and the state was supposed to make up the difference. The problem was that formula didn't include issues like special education, early childhood education, and technology. 2 years ago, several of my colleagues and I decided to make special education our major effort in terms of increasing local aid. And because we passed the special ed circuit breaker, which takes up, the state pays 75% of if a student costs more than the foundation. Winchester now receives over $400,000 in the special ed circuit breaker. We need to revise the formula, and it will be revised this year, as Bill White pointed out. There is move to change the formula. The question is if we do it in an adequate and equitable way. I think I have enough experience and knowledge, having worked on school finance for 20 years, to be an active advocate for all of the communities in this district.
Mr. Callahan.
Thank you very much. As I said earlier, education is the most important thing to us, the education of our children. And the funding of that education has been diluted by the cap on the lottery, so that the funding the proper funding that is lawfully the communities are entitled to has been diminished. If I were elected senator, I would tell you that it comes down to a simple fact of money. The formulas are perfect. The formulas have been working for many years, but the money's not coming to the cities and towns because of the lottery cap. We must eliminate the lottery cap. If we eliminate the lottery cap, first of all, looking at our economic picture, there's been an increase in revenues to the Commonwealth of $1.1 billion. It's time to lift that cap, to restore the teachers to the classrooms, to make the classroom size smaller so that the children will get the proper education and it'll be a wonderful educational environment. By doing this, we not only eliminate a problem in the educational portion of the city and town's financial picture, but we also put the police back on the street, we put the firemen back in the firehouses, we put the DPW people back so that our parks are safe for the children to play in. We make a much better community. 10 out of the last 13 overrides in the town of Winchester have been defeated. It's not fair to pit the elderly against children, to pit people who are sick or who need senior citizen centers. Whatever the good works in the cities and towns are, one against the other. Let's bring the money back where it's lawfully supposed to go to the cities and towns. Lift the cap in the lottery. Thank you.
Mr. Mackey, what would you do to?
Thank you, Ann. Sometimes you don't see the tree because of the forest. Arguing over the factors that go into Chapter 70 funding is absolutely foolish. This district is a perfect example as to why that argument is foolish. The fact of the matter is that since 2002, Somerville, Winchester, Medford, and Woburn, very different communities with very different needs, very different types of communities and educational needs, have seen almost the exact same percentage decrease in Chapter 70 funding. The problem is the lack of proper money being put into the system. The state in the past few years has broken its partnership with the cities and towns to attend to one of what is our greatest asset in this Commonwealth, education. We need early education programs. We need proper funding restored to every community in this district. Since 2002, they've faced approximately a 20% decrease in Chapter 70 funding. We shouldn't argue or pit community against community on how we weigh these different factors. Certainly, special needs should be added as a factor in the whole process. But there are presently 18 different factors. You have a situation where all of these communities are being treated equally badly. We have to change that situation. We have to tell Beacon Hill and the people who are making the laws up there that we will not accept 20% decreases in the funding for education in this district. Thank you.
The legislature, both the House and Senate, continue to struggle with the issue of equitable distribution of educational funding. But you can't demonize the legislature. The legislature is not responsible for a tailspin or the dot-com burst, the bubble bursting. And yes, back in 2003, things were cut. Even if we provided all the lottery money that's been suggested, that we still had a $2 to $3 billion budget deficit. And the only Band-Aid that we had at that time that saved the state was the foresight of the 90s legislature saying that we need a rainy day account. We need to be responsible. We can't spend every dime. And when you stand here and say, well, the legislature has to come through with that, or the state should have done this, the state should have done that, you're not taking into perspective the true economic reality. Reality was no one wanted to pass an increase in taxes. Reality was that you had to have cleverer minds to basically try to bring in more revenue. Reality was that we had something called the loophole closing, that to date, after 3 loophole closing, after amnesty programs, and after creative ideas to bring more money into the state without raising taxes per se, we brought home close to $800 million. And that's a creative mind that you need up there. When you talk about the Senate district as a microcosm of the issue that we all experience, that's true. But when urban leaders come together, to me, we have a sit down. And that's important because when we sat down with urban leaders from Somerville and Medford, we thought of a creative way to spread out property tax in the form of dual business rates. Do you remember that? We went up right up to 200%, but only on a temporary basis to help the Somerville, to help Winchester, to help Medford. But you have to sit down, roll up your shirt sleeves, and say, how do you do this? What's reasonable? You just can't have a tax and spend attitude and said, we have to keep spending. That's the problem that got us where we were in the 80s under the Dukakis administration, and that's the problem that I don't want to revisit. We have to think outside the box. We have to continue to fund our rainy day account, and we have to build up the stabilization fund. That's what saves all these communities on times of economic duress.
Thank you. Looking at the time, and to get another question in, I'd like to, if you could answer in less than a minute. In what direction should Massachusetts go to meet its future energy needs? We'll start with you, Ms. Jones.
Okay. Well, obviously, the first thing we need to do is to promote energy efficiency, and there is an energy efficiency bill, which I am co-sponsor of, which just received a favorable report, which would require major appliances and major things like furnaces to meet efficiency standards. This will save millions, probably hundreds of millions of dollars in energy costs and will reduce our dependence on foreign oil. The second thing we need to do is to increase public transportation. I was the lead sponsor last year of putting $259 million in the House Transportation Bond for the Green Line extension, which is one step towards getting that extension approved. I think we need to invest more in public transit. I helped not only do that in the legislature, but I testified, wrote letters, and helped organize the citizenry for that. I also support alternative fuels and alternative energy sources such as wind and solar.
Mr. Callahan.
Massachusetts needs to revamp its conservation policies. We need to expand upon the Congressional Energy Bill, which is now sitting on the President's desk, which I hope that he will sign. It provides for tax rebates, exemptions, incentives, and incentives on the federal level, and we must provide for these same tax rebates, the exemptions and incentives at the state level. We have to examine the possibilities of renewable energy, wind, solar, and water energy. With the retiring power plants all over the nation, there is a need to design and construct a power grid, a pipeline, or other energy delivery systems with the sufficient infrastructure to withstand the expansion of costs to the future ratepayers. We have to pay particular attention to this, and if I'm elected senator, this will be one of my major concerns. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mackey.
Certainly, we have to attend to issues such as conservation, and we have to be strong supporters of public transportation to begin to address this problem. But the fact of the matter is Massachusetts is an end-of-the-pipeline state. We have to come up with different ways to deal with this problem so that other states may not be faced with quite the same types of issues. We have to encourage wind farming in this state. We've balked at that in the past few years. We have to encourage wind farming. We have to encourage solar energy. We have to encourage steps such as net metering that would allow industry to become involved in wind farming and solar energy so that they can take advantage of the energy that they produce through those environmentally sound means. Also, we have to recognize the fact that right now we consume approximately 3% of our energy comes from natural gas. That will be growing to 20% over the next 5 to 10 years, according to every prediction. We have to do things such as develop an LNG facility on the outer Brewster Island to save communities such as Everett and Fall River from the tragedy that's occurring to their environment and to their ways of life right now. We have to look to innovative ways to address this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Case.
As recent as yesterday's Globe mentioning that this Boston City Hall runs on $2.5 million worth. It uses $2.5 million worth of energy a year. That's one location. And certainly I'm the proud proponent and author of different green energy and alternative fuel taxes. And we have to promote green energy. We have to promote greater use of high occupancy of high occupancy lanes. And we have to say that if you drive a hybrid, if you drive a hydrogen car, or if you drive propane on buses, you will get a benefit. You'll be able to go on those high occupancy lanes. We have to have a greater focus on development and growth. When you travel around the country and when you go internationally, you'll see on every rooftop you'll see solar panels, and those might just be small solar panels, just for hot water heaters. But we have to promote that. We have to make it almost costless, just where because we get an energy tax already, and that's compliments of the legislature years ago during the deregulation. The money is there, and it's certain fun, and we should be promoting this and saying that you put up solar panels, you are going to get a tax credit for it, and it's going to not cost you any more than just a regular electrical hookup.
Excuse me. Mr. White, we're
Time
running out
gets
of time.
short. I guess this is one question where everybody has been in agreement on. Clearly, public transportation. I was a proponent early on for the location of a Orange Line stop at Assembly Square to free up the traffic problems that any development would bring there. I learned today from the mayor's office that Congressman Capuano had inserted in the congressional budget bill, in the congressional bond bill, $25 million for the funding of that stop. I was on the advisory committee for the Green Line expansion through Somerville into Medford. I'd also support the construction of the urban ring. Everybody wants green buildings. I definitely agree with that. We've done that in Somerville. We have a climate commission. We've been exploring alternative fuel uses. I think in the Commonwealth, we should plan on constructing new buildings in the form of green buildings, energy efficient. Also, we should do an audit of our existing buildings, determine where improvements can be made, and anytime any capital improvements are made to those existing buildings, if possible, be done in a way so that they're green friendly. Those would be ways that we can enact. Even though it is a national problem, this is a way we can enact at the local level to help the Commonwealth and to help the country.
And moving very, very quickly to the concluding remarks, since we're out of time, Mr. Callahan, would you start? And we will stop you after 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Ian, and thank you to the League of Women Voters and to the residents of Winchester. In closing, I'd like to thank you for sponsoring this very informative debate tonight. When Charlie Shannon passed away on April 5th, we lost not only a good friend, but also a great legislator. Now we who seek to succeed him have the monumental task not only of convincing you, the voters, that we can do the job, but also that we share the same care and compassion that Charlie had. I believe that if you give me the opportunity, I will meet that challenge. I will fight for senior citizens' prescription advantage. I will fight for affordable property taxes. I will fight for more funding for education, particularly special education. I've worked hard all my life. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I'm not afraid of hard work, and I'm used to fighting for what is right. I would like to represent you, and with hard work and fighting for you, I hope to bring you, the people of this district, a better quality of life. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Mr. Mackey.
Thank you, Ian. I'd like to thank the League, and I'd like to thank the people of the town of Winchester. Charlie Shannon was, above all, an effective legislator. We need someone that can be effective up there in fighting for issues such as early education programs, class size, fight to make sure there's proper funding for proper class sizes in our schoolrooms throughout this district. We need someone who will go up there and fight for affordable, accessible housing and health care for our elderly in our communities. And, you know, I've heard the word fight used often here in this last hour, but one phrase that I have not heard used that I think every Democrat running for office in Massachusetts should use is that I want to go to Beacon Hill to fight Mitt Romney. This state is not going in the right direction under his leadership. We need an invigorated Democratic Party to fight him, to set out an agenda, to expose him for what he is, and that is not a friend to the town of Winchester, not a friend to the cities of Somerville, Woburn, and Medford. I want to be that state legislator. I believe that I have the history of effectiveness. I have the perspective, having been away from that place for a period of time. And I think I have the passion to fight for you on Beacon Hill. Please vote for me on August 30th. Thank you.
Mr. Case?
Mr. Farmer, League of Women Voters, I welcome the opportunity for Joe Mackey to go down Washington to fight Mitt Romney. But I'm actually worried about Beacon Hill. And in the beginning, when I ran, it was tempting to promise the world. It sounds like a Saturday Night Live skit. I'll give you apple pie. I'll give you universal health. I'll give you no taxes. I love dogs, animals. I'm going to give you the American way because I am an American. Yeah, that's the ticket. And when I first got to office, I got to tell you, that's so tempting to do. And what this shows more than ever is that there are people who can digest information. And I trust you, the viewer, to be able to digest this and know that when I came to office, I didn't make all these outlandish promises. I said I'll work hard as I can. I mean, everyone's saying I'm going to fight, fight, fight. I'm a professional boxing referee, and I'll tell you, I'll be happy to break up the fights up here. But it's not the fighting that's important. It's how dirty your uniform is after the game. It's being able to chase the grounders, sort of speaking, in baseball. I will treat this job as a full-time job. You ask everybody here if they're going to treat this job as a full-time job, whether or not they'll open up a district office, whether it's going to be staffed by a running slew of volunteers. I'll have a regular office hours in all the cities, I mean, on a regular basis. I'll keep in touch and stay in touch, and I will never take this job for granted. I've been reelected 9 times in Winchester, and I still write weekly articles. I still conduct seminars on homestead, still conduct seminars on circuit breakers. And I ask each and every one of you to expect more from each of these candidates. I want you to ask them, are you going to be a full-time rep? Are you going to offer open town forums? Are you going to give a weekly, or for that matter, a yearly or biannual report card every year as to what you are doing for the people of Somerville, Medford, Winchester, and Woburn? I have a record of keeping the promises that I make, and I offer you only results, not rhetoric.
Thank you. Mr. Watt?
Thank you. Well, in response to your question, yes.
Thanks.
To close, I want to thank the League, and I want to thank the viewers this evening. And I'd like to close with a story. Many years ago, I was fortunate enough to serve as an intern for Congressman Tip O'Neill when he was the majority leader. And that was a period of time when Gerald Ford was president. And the leadership in Congress was getting a lot of flack from members because of their inability to override President Ford's vetoes. And my first task, remember, this was the time before computers and databases, was to go down and look at each congressman's voting record on veto overrides under Republican presidents going back to Eisenhower. And one of the things that fascinated me was that on both parties, you did not have people marching lockstep based on partisan issues. It was remarkable. And actually, when the congressman saw that, he used it in leadership meetings, because when people criticized him about their inabilities to override, he said, wait a minute, Congressman, you voted 40% of the time with the Republican president. Don't criticize me. But that sent me a message. And when I got involved again later in life in politics, I've seen it change dramatically right now. I mean, just going door to door, you tell people you're Republican, they immediately, certain things come to mind. The partisanship is tremendous. And what I'm doing with my candidacy is running on my record based on, my experience, which anyone would tell you in Somerville is one of nonpartisanship. It is a matter of me evaluating the policies and the issues and making a decision about what I believe is best for the district. If I'm elected, that's what I will do. Fortunately, I don't have a primary to worry about, so.
Excuse me.
Okay, thank
Ms.
you.
Yellen?
I wish you did.
Thank you to the League. Thank you to the viewers. I've been in the legislature for 14 years. Before that, I was on the Somerville School Committee for 16 years. I've been a teacher, a mother, and now I'm a grandmother. I do have experience during the last 14 years, because we've had 4 Republican governors. I've had experience standing up to both them and to Speaker Finneran. I want to just say, my top priorities have always been education, finance, adequate local aid, the same thing, and universal health care. Mr. Mackey may not remember the last recession when he was in office, but during his term, local aid in Chapter 70 went down in every community. During mine, even with the recession, it has gone up. In the rest of this legislative session, universal health care, education, finance, the constitutional amendment on gay rights, and the women's right to choose will all be considered by the legislature. It makes a difference who your senator is, and I ask for your vote.
And that concludes our primary forum. Thank you for listening. Thank you all for attending. Thank you, WinCam, for producing this and sharing it with the other communities. And please vote on August 30th in the primary. Thank you. Good night.
This telecast is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Winchester, a nonpartisan organization for 85 years encouraging the informed and active participation of citizens in government.